You're listening to RTI Audio, powered by Rocky Top Insider. This is Pancakes and Bacon with VFL, Kyler Kerbyson, and Reed Bacon.
Hello, Vol Nation. Welcome to another episode of Pancakes and Bacon. I'm your host, as always, Kyler Kerbyson, joined with Reed Bacon. Got a great one bye week. So no stress off our back. Vols didn't even have to play. No cardiac arrests over here. We're just chilling. We're just watching games. We're just enjoying all the other football that's going on. So Vols are still undefeated. Love that. If you guys are watching, please like and subscribe. Hit that notification bell and leave some comments for us. If you're just listening, rate and review, download, re-download, follow us on all those platforms. Follow us on social media too. Really appreciate you. We're going to get into the SEC. We're going to get into a little bit of Q&A. We're going to look ahead to Arkansas. But before we get into any of that, Reed, how we doing, bud?
Hello.
There he is.
What's up, player?
What's up, player?
How's your weekend?
Good weekend. Family came up from Knoxville, some mom, sister, brother. Got to see him, hang out with them. Got to show them the house for the first time.
What'd they say? What'd they think?
They liked it. They can see I'm living in some. It's a big house. It is kind of a squabble at this point because we haven't really renovated anything yet. It is a 100-year-old house, so. And I just do random things when I feel like I want to do them, even though I know that I'm going to be doing it later. So there's a wall that was separating two rooms downstairs, like where I do this podcast. Yeah. And I just took the drywall down like a week ago in between the two rooms. So it's just like, an open wall over here.
Are you going to make like one big room down there?
Yeah. So like our future plan, because we're working with the architect to figure out the whole house. But our future plan is down here to try and make it like an in-law suite.
For me?
Have a little kitchenette, a little living room, a little bedroom.
For me?
Yes, of course. Yes, for you. That's the only person we're thinking about.
I'm just making sure if I need a place to stay when I come visit, or if Megan gets mad at me and kicks me out.
Yeah. Yeah, you can be my mistress downstairs.
Hey. It just made me think about, I love King of Queens.
Yeah.
In the King of Queens episode where they invite Arthur's the dog walker, but she walks him. And they have her, she gets kicked out of her place, so they say that she can live with them. So Doug has his upstairs wife and his downstairs wife.
Yeah.
That's what you could have. I'm doing well. It was a little bittersweet this weekend. It was nice not having to stress or worry and just watch some other games. But then again, I miss watching my boys play.
It's true.
My Titans don't play today. They played Monday night. And at some point, I was going to say at some point we'll get our first win, but I don't want to put the cart before the horse.
Yeah, I don't know about that, but.
So, Miami's down to their third string. So, if not now, then when? So let's get a little Monday night victory. But, doing great. Just got to hang out with Megan's mom and spend some time with her this weekend, then hung out with my folks last night. So it was good just getting to see both sides of the family. What was your initial thoughts? And I know we're going to talk about Kentucky and Ole Miss as well, but what was your initial thoughts watching that game last night as a Tennessee fan and knowing that we play both of them? I mean,
so it was funny. Like my mom even texted me. She was like, "So who are we rooting for in this game?" And I was like, "We're not rooting for anybody. This is film study. Like that's all this is. That's all."
I did root for someone because I had money on it.
Well, yeah, if you have money on it, then that makes sense. But I'm not rooting for Georgia. I'm not rooting for Bama. I'm filled like this is okay, what does Alabama do? What does Georgia do? What do they do well? Do they like to play a certain kind of defense? Do they like to get in a certain personnel on offense? Like, that's how I was watching it the whole time. And how the game played out, there are some ridiculous athletes on both of these teams, just like absolute freaks. The wide receiver from Bama, the kid, the high
Ryan
school.
Williams.
Yeah. I mean, stupid. Jalen Milroe didn't realize how fast he truly is. And Georgia's got some dogs too, some young dudes on their team. As I was watching it, just thinking like, okay, well, it looks like both of these teams are very good, but both of them can also be had. Like the way that Alabama came out and started the game and really took it to Georgia, it was like, oh, like Georgia really wasn't ready for what Alabama was doing offensively. They really tried to play a lot of man coverage, and Alabama was like, okay, great. Like we've got athletes out here at the wide receiver position. And shout out, like I also thought Alabama's wide receivers did a fantastic job blocking downfield, which was like, one of those things that not a lot of people notice. And then the fact that Georgia just like fought back, chipped away, and then Alabama's offense just slowed. They just like couldn't get anything going. It like made me go the other way where it was like, oh, so Alabama is kind of – they're a little vulnerable. Like the fact that Georgia is able to fight back into this and then get a lead in this game, I'm like, okay, so maybe after, those initial few things and initial few like drives that you set up, right, plays that you scheme ahead of time, they kind of get bogged down into things. So I very much enjoyed the game. I mean, it's only 4 weeks in. That might be game of the year with how that played out and those two plays back to back of the long touchdowns. I mean, it's kind of crazy how that game went, but I enjoyed it because I was like, okay, I can see stuff we can do on offense. I can see stuff we can do on defense versus both of these teams.
Yeah, it started immediately about what worries me so much about Alabama. I love the fact that we get them at home this year, and I'll be very excited to see what Tennessee and Tim Banks do. I said it on the podcast last week. I was talking to my dad about it last night. When we see Boo Carter or Christian Harrison, if we see Andre Turntime, Jacoby Thomas, whoever's blitzing from the defensive backfield, whatever defensive ends beat their blocks and get upfield, it is so apparent. I mean, I want my defenders playing at 100 miles an hour, but this might be the one week when we play Bama that guys come up about 85% speed and just play defense the best you can, like basketball defense the best you can to try to turn him in until we get a bunch of people. And I was really impressed. I thought the game plan that Alabama had to start off, lots of quarterback runs, some quick and easy throws, different designs. I thought it was great. You gain an extra guy in the run game when you run him, and that's what he does best. So why not lean into it?
I mean, Nick Sheridan, who is their offensive coordinator, quarterbacks coach, he was at Tennessee when we had Dobbs.
Yeah. And
that kind of offense was exactly what we did. We ran quarterback counter, but then he had a guy in motion coming with the sweep. And it's just which one are you going to do? Yeah. Which one are you going to take?
That's where your eye discipline and which does, listen, I'm not really worried about the D line discipline. I've seen that. I will be slightly worried to see, and KP's pretty good with his eye discipline, but are they able to get Arian Carter or T-Lander looking one way or the other? But I just thought it was really smart what they did. Now, I'll be honest with you. I was out at my parents' house with Megan, and we watched the first half. And so I'm seeing that, and then I'm leaving, and I come home, and we unload the car, do some stuff here. And then by the time I sit down and get the game back on, then I get to watch basically the whole fourth. So I kind of missed the third quarter.
Mm-hmm.
And I might take some time this week to go back, if I got some time while I'm doing cardio or something, and watch kind of that third quarter, because I think it's also great that Tim Banks and Coach Heupel are going to be able to sit and go, okay, what did they do defensively in the second half to slow this down? Now, granted, we have two different depth charts, rosters, teams. So, I feel like the little bit that I saw would be like Georgia's safeties, probably faster than ours, probably better athletes than ours. But where do the linebackers compare? Obviously, defensive line, our defensive line, I'm putting them up there with anyone, so I'm not worried about that.
Yeah.
So I think that'll be neat. And then early on the Georgia side of stuff, you're like, man, this is what you were worried about. Like, I don't know if they're going to have the skill guys that really scare us. They don't have a running back doesn't necessarily scare us. I know Etienne's there, but he's good. He's not great or special. Ladd McConkey's gone. Brock Bowers is gone. Thank the Lord. It's like, so who's their next guy? And I'm sitting there, I'm like, wow, they can't compete. But I was so impressed with Georgia and Kirby to get those guys locked in. Be down 30-7 and fight back and take the lead is extremely impressive. And so it's like, okay, they did open it up. They did start going a little bit more tempo. Beck did have a lot of success. So I just feel like there's really great things to pick from not only the Tennessee coaching staff, any other coaching staff that's going to be watching this. I mean, Georgia plays Texas in a couple weeks. So I just think it was I think it's a great if you're Bama, you're pumped, the game's over and you got to win. And then Georgia, you're like, hey, I can still make it, but I can't lose now. And I just mentioned they play Texas in 2 weeks. So if you lose that one, your season could be kind of done, 2 losses. But if you're a Tennessee, you're sitting so pretty, right now. And so I Kyler is there still a little bit of baby worry? Yeah. Like I said, I still feel great about our defensive line and I feel great about Nico, but we don't have a receiver on our team that's going to do what Ryan Williams did, which is fine. We got maybe someone that's a step below with like a Brew who's going to catch it and break a bunch of tackles. But maybe I'm still a little bit worried about like Bama's linebackers and their D-line against our O-line, which would be something that maybe I would ask you if you thought anything there that would worry you on that part.
No, I mean, I think part of it too that Bama had, so both teams were coming off bye weeks, which is like an advantage when you're coming off a bye week going into a game. But the difference that Alabama had is they didn't play anybody before this week. They weren't struggling in games. They didn't have the Kentucky game like Georgia had, where it's like, oh, crap, we have to actually score some points here, and Kentucky's really taking it to us. We got to be inventive on offense. We got to show what we can do on defense, where Alabama didn't have that. So they come into this game, and they're like, Georgia is not going to know what hit them. They literally say it on the broadcast. Kirk Herbstreit is like talking about the defensive coordinator for Alabama, saying like they're going to see stuff that they have not seen all year in this game. And it's like, yeah, because Alabama didn't need to, right? What kind of defense runs freaking engage 8? This is 8 dudes on the goal line when they're in shotgun and gets the safety. It's like that stuff you pull out. They didn't have to use that versus South Florida. They didn't have to use that in any of their freaking games. So they pull it out now. Now that tape is out there, right? Now the tape is out there with those motions and quarterback counters that Jalen Milroe was running. That tape is out there now. I just felt like Georgia, there was a lot of times where they trusted their DBs like way too much to just be man-to-man coverage versus dudes. And they're just like, oh, yeah, we'll just play straight up man. And as soon as Jalen would see that, he'd be like, all right, I'm throwing it. I am throwing it no matter what. I'm throwing it up to my dudes. The wheel route touchdown to the running back. Immediately, this guy's behind. I'm throwing it. And it was a beautiful throw. Yeah. Every time Williams was in man coverage, he was throwing it to him. And it wasn't even always like fantastic balls. They weren't like always hitting him in stride. It was like he's going to come back to it. He's going to track it. I know he's good with his body control, which he's insane in. So it's like Alabama's offense and how they attacked was really simpler than you would think.
Yeah.
And how they really attacked Georgia. And I don't know what it is about Kirby, but he cannot get this freaking elephant off his back. He is 1-6 now versus Alabama.
I mean, he did respond in a big way back in, I guess that was 2021, where they lost the ACC championship game, came back and won in the national championship game. But I forgot until I was listening to something recently that John Mechie and Jamison Williams both went out in those two separate games. And so like that's huge.
Exactly.
And so maybe Kirby doesn't get that one if I think Mechie went down in the SEC championship. I think Jamison Williams went out in the Natty. So basically Bama's 2-star wide receivers that really changed the game. But I agree with you, which I think, I know they didn't win and it's not a moral victory, but I think showing that they could come back and settle back in and take the lead after being down 37, in a way, it started getting some of that more off his back, in my opinion. I'm fine with Jermod McCoy. I feel pretty good about Boo and Christian Harrison. I like Ricky, but he's still young. And the reason I would pick having the Bama game here compared to the Georgia game is I truly think that I think Bama is much more of a home field advantage than Georgia will be. And if we had to go to those places and we're going to Georgia, and I think we have a better chance of rattling a Milroe here than maybe rattling a Carson Beck here with the way that they play. Now, if you let Milroe get off and get running and really get going, that's one thing. But if we can really frustrate him, not let him get running, and then it just starts turning into a chuck fest, then that's where it goes into, hey, Ricky, can you make a play on the ball? Do we see Andre Turrentine or Will Brooks get over top of one and pick one off and stuff? And so that's the one reason that I'm excited about having Bama here, because there is a way to hopefully turn them into one-dimensional. And I think Georgia's too good that they're going to run it and throw it. And Carson Beck.
Yeah, I think it's like if I were to have my advantage of Neyland Stadium, the 100,000 fans, and I wanted to use it against a team, I want to use it against Bama. I think that I can still hang with Georgia and do what I need to with Georgia without that.
Yeah, and that's
I want to use that versus Bama. I want to use that versus Jalen. I want to get it to where it's not his first read he's throwing the ball to every single time.
Right.
Maybe there's a little bit of confusion going on. Maybe they're not getting the play calls in. Like, that's what I want versus them, where with Georgia, it's more of a pro-style offense. It's more of a prototypical kind of like setup. So they're not trying to Lamar Jackson it. Like, they're not running their quarterback. He's a very stationary dude. Yeah, he can move a little bit, but like that makes me feel a lot better.
Yeah, and just seeing that atmosphere last night, and this is not a shot at Georgia and the stadium and those fans and stuff, but it's like I see that last night. I'm like, wow, that's a tough place to walk into. And then I see Georgia, and it's like, oh, yeah, Georgia's rowdy and got some good fans, but it's just not nearly as big and as imposing, in my opinion. I mean, hell, you played both of them, so.
I agree with you. No, yeah. It isn't. Like, Bryant-Denny is more imposing. It's a bigger stadium, louder stadium. They're getting after it. They're more rowdy than Samford. That's just what it is.
Right. And like I said, not taking a shot at Georgia, I think if Bama and Georgia played, 5 times, it's probably going to come down to the wire on all 5 of them. But I also I'm talking also, like you mentioned, the way that Alabama's constructed compared to the way Georgia's constructed. I need that game in Neyland. So obviously I was really, really excited to see Ole Miss lose. I've never liked Ole Miss. I've explained it on here a ton to people that have listened to us for a long time, but I don't like Ole Miss because when I would visit Memphis and then when I went there to play and you be in that city, there's a very big mosh pit in Memphis of you got Tennessee fans, Alabama fans, Mississippi State fans, Ole Miss fans, and Memphis fans. And then a lot of times those Memphis fans are like, they're more Memphis basketball and they'll root on the team, but then they also like another like SEC football team. But I've never liked Ole Miss about how they acted, that they just, I always say they have a walk of champions, but they've never won a championship. They've never really done anything to be as cocky or as arrogant as they can be about stuff. And then there's the Lane Kiffin factor, which I just don't like the guy. And it's not even what he did here. It's just how he acts and how he carries himself. And Kyle and I have been over that a bunch. Now, I don't like Kentucky either. I don't like Kentucky. But in a weird universe way in my head, I was like, Stoops, not the players and the fans, but like Stoops, I kind of felt bad that they let that Georgia one get away. I'm like, for him, I'm like, hey, I'm happy he was able to get this one. I don't know why. That'll change. I just felt that yesterday. But I don't like either of them. But, man, if I can watch those Ole Miss people who, they're number 6 in the nation, it's what you and I said, it's what other people have said, like, hey, let them play an actual team, Wake Forest and freaking whoever else, doesn't matter. And it's like they finally play one team and they lose at home, and they're 17-point favorites.
Yeah, exactly. 17-point favorites. That's the wild part. I think part of it for Stoops is like you don't see him as a threat.
That's probably why. That's a great point. That's a great point.
It is very much like even when Kentucky has been good in years, we still beat them. So it's like you almost feel bad for him.
It is almost like this. Yeah, that's a great point. It's almost like I put my arm around him, like, it's okay, buddy. Like, you're fine. Yeah, that's great. I'm not threatened by him at all.
And then it's very much like, people are like, how could you root for Kentucky? And I'm like, listen, guys, I'm rooting for Tennessee. And the best thing for Tennessee is to have this Ole Miss team that's ranked close to them, that is considered a good team, lose. Right? Because we don't play Ole Miss. We can't control whether we are above them in the standings in the SEC now that the way this is all working out. There's no East and West anymore. So it's like, we need these teams to lose. I need Missouri to freaking lose, dude. The Missouri is what worries me the most. Is like us, Missouri getting somehow ahead of us because their schedule's easy as hell. The only tough game they have coming down the road is Alabama, and that's it.
They almost lost it. They did have a tough game against Vandy.
Well, I know, but that's what I'm saying is like I want Missouri to lose. They haven't lost yet. That's what I'm rooting for in these scenarios. It's not just, hey, just this week. We got to think holistically. So I love it. I love to see Ole Miss lose. I love to see Lane Kiffin lose. The way he acts about every single thing he's ever done is just a douche. Like, that's just the way he is. So it's great to see guys who are douches lose. And they barely were in that game. It was like they had a 4th and 7 conversion to be able to like get to 17 points. It's like they were never in control. They were never like, they didn't have that game and lose it. It was like at home, Kentucky is just beating the crap out of you. You're supposed to have this amazing offense. They've been scoring all these points and you can't do anything. I mean, Kentucky's defense is good. Now we've seen 2 offenses they've gone against in Georgia and Ole Miss, and they're shutting them down. Yeah. Like, this is a good Kentucky defense.
I thoroughly like that big boy that they've had there in the D line. I think he's projected first round at number 0, I think. Big old boy, and he moves well. He's fun to watch on the D line.
Yeah. So it was great. Love seeing them go down. And then, a couple nail biters. I think, Oklahoma barely squeaking away from Auburn doesn't make us look great, but I think they're going to get better as the season goes on. Like I think they're going to be a better team as the season goes.
I'm not worried about how it looks for us. I mean, they go to Jordan Hare. It's the first time that guy starts. There was I watched a little bit of the game, but I wasn't thinking about us. Like for me, in my opinion, we beat them. I don't really care what happens to them now because, truthfully, if Tennessee does what they need to do, they're going to be in the playoffs. So it's like I'm not really worried about them making us look good. Now, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe we need them to look good because if we do drop 2, then we need them to be like, oh, they went to Oklahoma and beat Oklahoma, and Oklahoma's only lost 2 games. Whatever it might be. But I'm at that point. At this point, I'm not worried about that yet.
Yeah. I got you. I mean, we just take care of your own business, right?
Yeah. All right, so let's jump into some Q&A. My quote for the week is "Bye, bye, bye" by NSYNC.
That's a bye week, baby.
So, and by the way, to hit on this, I like the bye week at this spot. I'm good. I'm Gucci with this.
Yeah,
four games in after one really tough one. Get us kind of some time to get the tackles back. We'll talk about Arkansas. I'm gonna start talking about that game, but we'll talk about it here. So do you have? I got some of my Q&As pulled up. Go ahead and hit me with ones that you have.
Yeah, I just literally went through the comment section of our videos and just like pulled out some that I was like, okay, yeah, that's not like a bad question, and started in the very first video and just kept going, but. One of the first ones I saw was, do we have a home run hitter at wide receiver? And I think everyone is in their heads thinking of Jalen Hyatt, 2022. Do we have that kind of wide receiver? We don't have that kind of wide receiver. But that's not to say that Dante Thornton can't take the ball down the field, that Chris Brazzell can't be a deep threat, that Brew McCoy can't break some tackles. Now, home run hitter, like you had just said when we were talking Georgia-Bama, we don't have a guy like that Williams kid on our team. We just don't have one of those.
But not many teams do. He's one of them.
Yeah, exactly. Not many teams do. Those wide receivers aren't like falling from.
So your answer is no. You don't think we do?
No, I mean, even though like we saw plays where it's like Dante Thornton versus Oklahoma, like takes a ball, 60, 70 yards for a touchdown. It's like, yes, I guess that technically is like a home run hit, but like, I don't know. Like I'm not just like, yeah, this is going to continually happen every time you give him the ball. It doesn't make me feel the same way as a Jalen Hyatt did, even like a Marquez Callaway did. I don't know. I mean, what do you think?
I would say I think so far right now, the question is, do we have a home run hitter? And I would say I think we do, because you have to give credit to Dante to show what he's done. You have to give credit to Brew, what he's done in the, I guess it was Florida game 2 years ago or last year that was brutal. But we've seen guys hit home runs, catch it, and house call it. So I have to give that to him. Do we have an elite wide receiver? No, I don't think we do. But we got some really good ones. And if I've seen them catch it and house call it, I have to say they're home run hitter. So that's how I would answer that question.
Okay.
Maybe I haven't seen a home run hitter where they catch a little hitch or catch a bubble and make 2 dudes miss and house call it. I haven't seen that, but I got to give credit to where credit's due on the over top balls.
Yeah, no, I see what you're saying. Maybe I'm being a little too critical on it, but next one, this is an easy one. It's do you think that not throwing the ball away and trying to keep the play alive and like run with your feet is something that's coached into the players?
It was such a good point. I wish you would shout out who said that, because I remember reading that and I thought that was a great point. Matter of fact, I think I said.
And I think it all depends on who your quarterback is. It depends on what your quarterback can do. Jalen Milroe, Nico, these running quarterbacks, they're taught differently than a Carson Beck, than a Quinn Ewers. Listen. Now that you are where you are, now that you've gone through your progression and there's nobody open, try and do something with your feet. Try and do something. The old way of thinking of quarterback, hey, throw the ball away. That's not like, it's not even part of the game as much anymore. Like, people are looking for quarterbacks to be mobile. Even if you're not a mobile quarterback, they want you to be mobile. They need some mobility out of you. And it's now like part of the game where it's like, hey, go get what you can. Go do what you can. You don't see a lot of just sit in the pocket. Hey, if there's not something, then throw it away. It's like, no, go get what you can with your legs. So I literally think it just depends on what kind of quarterback you have. Because I'm never telling Jalen Milroe to throw the ball away. I'm like, go run.
Yeah, no, that's a good. No, I understand. Good point. And I agree that on some of the, I think I am telling Joe, I mean, everyone should throw it away. If a James Pierce or a Tyree West or Omar Norman Lott break through the line and they got it on you and you can't get upfield and you're going to the right side and you're 15 yards deep, yeah, you better chuck it away. I mean, that's something that if I was a coach and they didn't, then I'm going to lose my mind. But I thought that was such a great point because sometimes it's, if you throw it away and you're not outside the pocket, you got to eat it unless you ground it to the vicinity of a wide receiver. But yeah, if we want to go fast and stuff, and it's, you get a 6-yard run at 2nd and 4, then you hike it quick and there's nothing there and you just eat it. And it's like, okay, well, it's you only lose 1 or 2 yards, but hey, we eat it. We'll get right back on and keep going. Like, I thought it was a good point. So I think you're right. The style of football now, you're very rarely getting rid of it with these quarterbacks. And then the comment that person made, I think that could be true. I could totally see Heupel being like, listen, if nothing's there and you can't get rid of it, just like get down, eat it, like whatever. Mm-hmm. So, and there have been times with Hendon, Joe, and I feel like even Nico already, where they do like the max protect 2-man route and it's not there and he just tells them to sell it.
Exactly.
I feel like I've seen that enough to where I feel comfortable. Like I'm not going to be surprised if someone said, yeah, that's true. So
yeah. Next, so how do players who want to transfer connect with other schools? And I was just like, they'll find a way. like there's always a way to connect to somebody. And if that's a DM on a social media, if that's hey, I'm connecting with this person who connects with this person, you can figure out a way. There's no guidelines on the way this whole thing is now. It's the wild, wild west. And it very much is like, you can do whatever you want. That UNLV story that the quarterback is just like, hey, I'm redshirting. I'm going to transfer after 3 games. It's kind of, that's kind of wild. Like, think about a guy who balls out for 3 games in a row at a smaller school and just goes, I'm going to keep a year. I know that after the season, I can go, hey, look at this film. Come pick me up from a bigger school, get more eyeballs on him, get drafted in a better spot, and keep his year. It's like, I never would have thought about that when we started this like NIL and transfer portal process and what it looks like. But now it's an advantage for players that they can just do that.
It's wild. Not to waste time to get in on that because it's not what we're going to talk about right now. But I hate, like, I would be pissed. Well, I guess I would. Yeah, I'm not going to get into it. To answer that question, I think one thing I would say is the football world is a big world, but it's very small. I guarantee you and I could sit here, and in my time at Memphis and in your time at UT, we're going to know coaches and players or ex-players that are now coaching places all throughout the landscape of college football.
Yep.
So when these guys are getting recruited, they can reach out to a coach that has recruited them. It would be as simple as that. Like, you're at Tennessee, you're not happy there, and you're going to reach out to someone who recruited you to Missouri. Just be like, hey, coach, this is Reed, just checking in with you. Hope you're well. Not pumped about kind of what is some stuff that's transpired here. Like, I'd love to talk to you at some point about joining you guys in the spring. It's as simple as that. Texting, calling, DMing. You might have your dad or your mom or an uncle or a handler or whoever else reach out to people. Like, it would be so easy to just it's so easy to tell them that you're interested and to find out if they're interested. And the other thing is too, there's probably a bunch of coaches that are there's people, I'm guessing, that are DMing players that they recruited. So you got a Kyler Kerberson, 4-star out of Knoxville Catholic, you redshirt his first year. Why would someone that recruited you to Duke not be like, or because I said Duke because that was where you were looking at second, them and Stanford. But why would they not reach out to that, Kyler, you didn't play this year. Are you happy with everything? Can we talk? And you'd be like, no, I'm still good, but thanks for reaching out.
No, exactly. I think there's also probably like time frames where it's like legal to reach out. So I'm sure sometimes they're like, wait for that. But if they know a guy is like sitting on the bench and can do some stuff for him, I'm sure schools are like, hey, reach out, like try and see if we can get that dude.
Yeah, and that's the funny thing is I say this because there's good people in the world. So there's lots of people that are going to be like recruiting someone, and Kyler chooses not to come to my school, but I'm going to be like, hey, man, I've really enjoyed getting to know you through this process. Best of luck to you. I'm here if you ever need anything. And I would mean that. And some of these other coaches would be like, all right, see you, dude, like whatever. But then like you can never be that way because that kid, there's probably dang 50% chance that you're going to, at some sort of time, you're going to have a chance to either coach that kid again or recruit that kid again, or maybe that guy turns into a coach and now you're looking for a job. Like, the college football world is just so small that these coaches better be careful how they recruit.
No, it really is. Let's see. Another one. Can any young O-lineman be counted on later? And this was one of the earlier games. I think it was after the second week. So it was like we saw some of the young guys in. And it's kind of funny. It's like we actually had to count on Larry Johnson in a game. And, see if he could hold up. And there's a reason the game plan changed. There's a reason it got a little bit more conservative and into the run and not putting us in long passing downs and 5-step drops and stuff like that, because coach trusts who he can trust out on the field with what can be done. So when it comes to that, I don't know if we're necessarily going to be able to like trust younger guys that are not on the starting lineup to play to the level of who we have on the starting lineup. I don't think that can happen, but that isn't to say that like Shamarad can't be a good, backup in there. William Satterwhite, like showing what he can do at center. We absolutely love Gage Ginther. Like some of those guys just being serviceable in certain situations. Yeah, possibly. But no, there's going to be a drop off if Cooper ever goes out. There's going to be a drop off if Spraggs and Carrick go out. And we saw the drop off when our tackles went out.
So put yourself back in the situation, your redshirt year, but say you didn't redshirt. Or I'll ask you this: either your true freshman year or your redshirt freshman year, so you're a sophomore. At any point, would you have felt comfortable going into those games and playing a meaningful role?
No. I mean, I would want to, for sure.
Yeah, I'm not saying that. I'm not saying that.
But I knew for a fact, like whenever I was at that point and Zach Fulton and Juwan James were ahead of me, I was like, they're very good. Like I know why they're ahead of me. I watch practice. I'm with them at practice. Like I see their ability. So it was like, in my eyes, I was like, I need to get better to compete with them. So I knew where I was in that pecking order. I was like, oh yeah, I'm not as athletic as Juwan. Like I need to.
There's a mental switch, and I
Yeah.
feel like if they had thrown you in at that point, you maybe knew you weren't ready, but then you go in, you get some lumps in your first game, and then maybe by that second or third game, you probably are feeling better. But when they were first throwing you in there, like we've talked about the game a bunch, and I went back and rewatched it recently. Was the 2015 your senior year Bama game, and Jack and Chance are playing as true freshmen. And they probably went in there and they probably didn't necessarily maybe feel ready, but then they get some snaps under their belt. They're like, okay, I can hang for a minute. Like, okay, let's do this. And so I feel like that would be my answer to the question is you throw somebody in there, it probably wouldn't look good for the first couple series, maybe even the first couple games, but then like they could work themselves into being serviceable. But that to say who, I would have no idea. And to say how many of those people, I don't know. Cause
It's hard to. It's just not the same.
Like, it's not. And I'm even thinking about like a DB, like if I was a freshman in Memphis and they're like, hey, you got to go play deep safety, I'd be like, and I say deep safety. If I say deep safety, because I would have been like, I would have been like, hey, I'll do it, but this is not going to end well for anyone. Yeah. But if they'd been like, hey, go play the nickel, I'm like, bet. Like, I've been like, let's fucking go. Like, I'm fired up. But there's a lot different responsibilities there.
You're like, I'm running backwards as soon as that ball snapped. I'm not letting anybody behind me.
Oh, if it was deep safety, they'd have been like, why is that guy looking like he's returning a punt?
Why is he lined up 35 yards off the ball?
Seriously. So no, but it just takes, and I think it definitely I think it also definitely depends on the person. There's some dudes that would be like, feel like they're ready. And like you and I both know confidence is half the battle at some things.
It is.
Anyways, what's another one you got?
Another one. Will Nico be able to make correct adjustments based on county defenders in the box? I think yes. I think the Oklahoma game was a great example of slowing down the offense and then just like having Nico like, look at the defense. What are they telling you? What are they giving you? What do they show? Like, how many guys are in the box? Because that was huge versus Oklahoma. What kind of numbers do we have versus this defense? Because how they were bringing people from different sides, how they were loading the box, how they were doing it differently when it was like safeties coming into the box versus their outside like bear guys coming into the box. I mean, slowing down helps determine what that defense is giving you. When you're going fast and when you're in that tempo, you don't always have to. It is very much, if you're going fast, the defensive coordinator, the only thing he can do is go, hey, base. Like, I don't have a play written up for you right now in this 2nd and 7 that they're about to do any kind of play they could do. They could pass, they could deep ball, they could run, they have all these options. Like, I don't have something for you, so base. And like the defenders are like, okay, we just got to kind of figure it out as we're out here. That makes it a lot easier. That's why tempo works. So, I mean, there's parts where it's like sometimes you don't even have to actually read the box because you're just going fast. And then other times it's like, all right, yeah, we can slow down and we can determine, hey, this is going to be a good play for us. Hey, if we run it right here, this is going to work for us because we're able to block the guys that we need to.
Take it back to what Joey Halsey or Halsley said at the beginning of the year, that we're not just going to go fast just to go fast. We're going to put ourselves in good situations and try to find our best matchup. So next question.
This kind of ties in a tempo offense. Like, how do the wide receivers get their calls, right? So if it's a tempo offense, they're running back and they just get lined up. It's like, how do they get their calls of like, hey, I'm running a post. Hey, I'm running a corner. Hey, I'm running a seam. A lot of that, I think they still do, is just like, dude over on the sideline is wide receivers, and he's giving hand signals. He's saying, hey, this is what you're doing. or plays are just one-word plays, right? Hey, this is
Purple.
Panda. Like it's just like a one-word play, and all the wide receivers know, hey, if it's Panda and I'm at X, I'm running a post. And they just know that automatically because we would do the same things when we were there. It was just one-word plays when, hey, we just got a big gain on a first down of 30 yards. Sometimes the coaches would just go like Nike, Nike, Nike. And it's just like, hey, we're doing this play. Hey, we didn't even plan for it, but guess what? We're doing it right now. And you got to be locked in enough to remember, hey, I know on this play, this is what I have. So there's different ways to do it.
Yeah.
And then one of the last ones I had is the 12 personnel, which is one running back, two tight ends. Was that for lack of production and depth at the tackle position? And they're talking about the Oklahoma game. So what they're pretty much saying is, did they get into two tight ends, one running back because of the lack of ability, production from the tackles, and the depth of the tackles? And the answer is yes. Like Josh Heupel changed his game plan in the second half because of what he was dealing with at the tackle position and what he had and what he knew his defense could do.
But I think, agreed. But I think he also likes that formation because he likes our tight ends. He likes running out of that formation because the Oklahoma game was not the first game we saw it. You know, if that was the first time we saw it, then I'd be like, 1,000%. He got nervous. He wanted extra protection. He wanted to pound it. But we saw it in the North Carolina State game. We've seen it in other games. And like I said, I think that's because he feels that he has a good advantage when we're in that formation.
Yeah, I think so too. I think he trusts his tight ends a lot too.
Yeah.
Where he's like, listen, I know these guys can block for me, but I also know they're athletes. And it's like I can get them out in the flats. I can get them out in the middle of the space. Like I can get them in open space even when they're lined up next to the tackle or in the backfield or whatever that might be. So it gives him options of like teams don't know if it's a run or if it's a pass. So
This is just one comment that I wanted to give a shout out to is after we talked about the NC State game and it's TADYORI overall. So and it was a comment on YouTube. So today or I overall, I don't know what the name's supposed to be, but it was a great point. And I responded back to it and it said, you guys can't say that it's UTC, take it with a grain of salt. And he's like, just like with Austin P, we struggled. And from those issues, they showed up all year. And then someone else said, hey, we thought in some of those games it was vanilla offense, but then some of that stuff showed itself all year. And I was like, yeah, that's a good point when you go back and look at it. So I appreciate when people throw that stuff in there that maybe we don't think about when we're talking and recording and trying to talk somewhat quick and thinking about it. But I thought that was a great one. Another one that I've seen that Stay Mad asked us on Twitter, which he's always great about reaching out to us and stuff. But who's one player offensively? I think he said from the past 15 years that you would add 10 to 15 years that you would have on this offense. And I think I saw someone else put that out there too. But so who's like one player from the past 10 or 15 years that you would want to add to this offense? I think I know who mine would be.
I mean, I think the most chalk answer is Alvin Kamara. I also think someone who's undervalued that people forget about is Cordell Patterson. That man is an absolute freak. He can do whatever he wants when he has the ball in his hands. It's just about getting the ball into his hands. So man, I played with a lot of these guys, right? Like I was there for 5 years. So I got to either, see them or play with them. I mean, throw me a Justin Hunter in there too. Like, I don't mind that.
Justin's just like an overgrown Jalen Hyatt.
I know. He honestly is. Trying to think like in the running back position. Like Jalen Hurd, you say what you want, but like I think he could have done well.
I'm still listening. I'm just going through some of these different comments and QAs that I want to think.
Yeah, I'm just trying to think of like all the different guys that I would like, but I think a sneaky pick is Cordero Patterson.
So I love the CP pick because that dude, you get the ball like he's a home run hitter. He's the definition of a home run hitter. I mean, he's going to beat someone deep. He's going to Heupel could put him in the backfield. He could bring him on a jet. Can you imagine how dangerous CP would be in the slot and they throw him a quick bubble and he has a tight end or Brew blocking for him?
Oh my God.
If you threw that guy 10 bubble screens or smoke screens and he had average blocking on all of them, I'm thinking he house calls like 3 or 4 of them.
yeah, dude.
Out of 10, I think he's house calling like and so I think CP's a great one. I'll be honest with you, Kyler. I'll be honest. I think this team is still good enough on the edges. I thought about AK because AK would be good, but I think Dylan's really good. So I think AK would be a waste to bring back because Dylan, like, I'm looking more not about the player, but the position. So like I'm thinking like if you bring a Trey Smith back and you have Cooper, Javonte, John, Trey Smith at the other guard, and Lance Hurd. That's going to be pretty deadly. Maybe bring Darnell Wright back, or like a Jawan James to have just a solidified tackle, because you got the quarterback, you got enough piece at running back. The receivers are going to be good enough, but CP's hard to turn down because of just the offense itself is crazy, and then you get that guy on the edge. So I think that's a good one, but I think ultimately I'm probably going to just go with Trey Smith or another offensive lineman.
Yeah. I like it.
I'd bring you back.
I appreciate that, buddy.
Yeah. Hey, if they brought you
else before we go to Arkansas,
if they brought you back, you would actually maybe get to play your own position, your actual true position.
Yeah, I might get to play guard. Yeah.
Just one thing I wanted to hit on that someone brought up was another good point. We were talking about all the rotation and depth and redshirting, and 2 people had made comments that like, hey, they think that they like to rotate so much in because they're building depth, but they're also keeping guys invested, which I agree. Like if they trust a guy enough, they're going to get him in there to keep him invested, not transfer away. Plus, if you redshirt someone and they're not comfortable with it, I think that's a conversation you have like, hey, Jake, we're going to redshirt you at quarterback. He's going to be like, okay, great. Like, I'm cool with that. But if you got a linebacker or receiver, like you're not going to tell a Mike Matthews, hey, we're going to redshirt you. He's like, no, you're going to play him. You're going to get him ready. If injuries happen, then he will be ready. But if not, you keep his appetite wet enough to then that he knows next year it's like really go time. Plus, these reps are so invaluable. So it's like, what's more important for a Mike Matthews, that we redshirt him a year or that we get him reps now and then he can have 2
in-game.
Yeah.
In-game reps, full speed reps.
Yeah. So there was that one. I'm going to pull up a couple more, but you probably already got all of them. I just want, like I said, not only the questions, but I like shouting out some of those that I think are really good. And I try to always respond. Yeah, go ahead. Let's talk. Go ahead. Let me start hearing your Arkansas breakdown. I'm going to do one more quick go through to make sure I don't miss any. And then I'm going to look up the spread because I'm assuming the spread on this game might be out and I haven't checked it yet, but I'm going to pull it up.
Yeah, it probably is out. So Arkansas, watching these games like versus Oklahoma State, versus Auburn, now versus Texas A&M, and seeing them out there, there's certain things that they can be dangerous with on offense. And it's like you see some flashes of some deep balls downfield. You see flashes of this Taylor Green quarterback running. And you're like, oh my gosh, like they can do some things on offense and take advantage of stuff. But I've never seen a team shoot themselves in the foot with turnovers more than this Arkansas team. I could not believe when I was watching Arkansas versus Auburn last week, the amount of turnovers that happened in a 40-second span. It was insane. They turned the ball over, and this Taylor Green quarterback runs around with that ball like it's just another thing. Like it's just whatever. I'll throw this thing away. Like I couldn't care less about this. It baffles me, honestly, to see. And I just think that with the way our defense plays and the way that we go after the ball to try and get it, man, I like when we play Arkansas now, looking at the way that we played Oklahoma, knowing we had the lead and we slowed down and we played a different style of offense with our tackles being out and our defense just kept, their foot on their throat and just held them there. It's like if these teams turn the ball over, they're going to be dead. Like, keep turning the ball over like this versus us, and you're going to see 21, 28 points pretty quick, and then nothing else is going to happen for you. Like, you're going to be stuck behind the 8 ball. And I just going into the season, we talked about like this Arkansas game being the sneaky one, right? Being the sneaky game that like you're not really paying attention to. Yeah, no, I remember.
No. You're right. I just found the score. Tennessee's minus 13.5.
Woo! That's a way. That's an away spread.
Hey, keep talking.
I like 17.5 if it was home.
Keep talking. I'll be right back. I got to do something.
So 13.5 point spread. Love that. And yeah, I just don't think this Arkansas team is set up well enough. And, love Sam Pittman. Love that man. Coached me for a year at Tennessee. Was my offensive line coach. Was a great offensive line coach. Doesn't look like the head coaching tenure is going to last there. But man, they just, once you turn the ball over that much versus this Tennessee team, you're not going to survive. You just really aren't. And, in some instances, people could say, like, we don't really take care of the ball that well. We have the 2, interceptions versus NC State. We have the 2 fumbles versus Oklahoma. And I kind of look at it as, like, the first interception Nico threw versus NC State, like, I really didn't think it was a bad ball by any means. And the second interception is him trying to make a play and trying to throw it while getting hit. And it's a freshman. The fumbles, it's like, I can't really blame Nico for getting hit in the back. His tackle, not being, just not being what he needs to be on that play. And so it just feels like, hey, we were at this disadvantage when those 2 fumbles happened versus Oklahoma. With not having our like starting tackles. So it's like, I don't think we have a turnover problem, but man, does our defense love to turn people over. And I think that's just going to be the biggest factor in this game. And 13.5 points, it's like,
you think we cover?
Writing on the wall.
Think we cover?
I do. I think we go in there. And it is like the LSU game in 2022, where it's like, we just boom, 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 and then we end up winning by 30. Like, it's like,
yeah,
they don't know what to do.
I'll keep mine quick. So Arkansas is better than what we expected them to, what I expected them to probably be. And in a way, I think that helps Tennessee and the coaching staff. It'd be different if this team, Tennessee, was going in there and be like, oh, Arkansas's won 1 game or won 2 games or hasn't had some of the back and forth competition that they've had. And so, but I also think that just what I've seen so far, and knock on wood, not to jinx it, I do think we have a very mature team in how they handle business, how they go about business. You have good leadership on the team of a Dylan Sampson who doesn't seem like he's going to let the offense play sloppy, and he can be that vocal leader that maybe Nico's not. You have a Brew McCoy who's an older guy. You have a Cooper Mays. Then the D-line with Amari Thomas at his age, and then you got Omar, who seems like he'll go play on a Tuesday afternoon in the street parking lot. Like, you just have these guys that are characteristics of like, we're not going to overlook anything. We're always trying to get better. We just love playing ball, and I think all that stuff truly matters. It helps not having it helps not having a letdown. I think a night game helps us. I do. I think they're going to be very rowdy, and it's going to be rocking there. And this is like their one opportunity to really knock someone off in a big, cool environment. And I think they'll hit us. I think Petrino will have a couple really nice offensive plays, a couple really nice offensive drives. That maybe those first 10 to 15 he'll have cooking if he can get them cooking, which is an if, because I don't know if our D-line can take them out of that early on, but I think it might be a little NC State, little misdirection, quick passes, get their athletic quarterback out on the run, maybe a trick play here and there. And so things like that. But ultimately, I was worried about this one, us riding high, being a 12 sleepy noon kickoff, and we just aren't ready to play. But with it being a night game,
and this is their first big home game of the year, because they played the whoever that first game scored 70, and then they played UAB at home, which was not supposed to be a big game, ended up being closer. But every other game's been away.
Yeah,
so
fighting. And I don't think the game that I watched them play, I watched a little bit against the Fighting Trent Dilfers at UAB. I watched a little bit against Okie State, which you don't want to get me going on Okie State and Gundy. That guy is so annoying, and I'm so happy he didn't become our coach. And I think they're overrated every year, but there's still going to be something. Like I said, Sam will have these guys fired up for the opportunity. You got a couple Vols on that team with Nico Slaughter and Addison Nichols.
It's just sad.
So Danico and Addison will probably try to give them any clues that they can and stuff like that. But ultimately, as long as Tennessee doesn't go down there and have like a 3 or 4 turnover game or some random MAs, missed assignments on defense, then we should cover and cover easily. Because just think about it this way. We just went into Oklahoma with all the stuff that was going on with Oklahoma. Oklahoma's going to have better talent all around, and we did what we did to them. So why shouldn't we do that to a lesser team in Arkansas? That's the way I look at it now. This team has showed me enough 4 games in that, hey, Arkansas might keep it close for a little bit, but if Tennessee does what they need to do, they should be able to pull it away. And I don't think Arkansas's defense is going to be able to stop our run, slow our run down as much as Oklahoma slowed us down, because Oklahoma did not stop our run game. They slowed it down a little bit. So if they only can slow it down, I don't think Arkansas can stop it. So I think Tennessee wins, and I think they could easily win by 21, 28, 17.
I agree. So no, I think they will. I think it'll be like a 35-10 kind of game.
Man, this is fun. This is fun.
Ain't it fun? Ain't it fun to be fucking good at football? it's great. Fun.
See you, brother.
All right, man. All right. Thank you guys so much for watching and listening. If you are watching, please like and subscribe. Hit that notification bell. Leave a comment. If you're just listening, rate, review, download, re-download. Follow us on all those listening platforms. Also follow us on social media at Pancakes and Bacon for our main account on Twitter, at Pancakes and Bacon _RTI on Instagram. If you want to follow Reed, just at rbacon26 on Twitter. And then myself is just at Kyler Kerberson on all social medias. So check me out there. Man, it's exciting. We love the season going on so far. Love this opportunity to just be a great freaking team. And thank you guys for being the best fans in the world. As always, go Vols.